Yo, what is up, you guys, and welcome back into another One Piece poll video. If you're an avid watcher of this channel, you might be saying, Sai, something's a little bit different today. You're goddamn right it's different, because I'm standing up right now. I have a standing desk. I've been having it for the past couple of years. I just never utilized it until now. You know, I always thought my cord management was really bad, so I never gave it a try. But I said, you know what? Let's just kind of push the limits and see if we can actually make this work. So here we are. Let me know if you guys prefer videos like this where I'm standing and talking, or if you like videos where I'm sitting down. Either way, doesn't really bother me. You know, as long as my computer can handle this. But getting right into it, this is a Gunko discussion video. That is right. We're going to be talking about our blue-haired baddie here in Elbaph. So I held a couple of polls about her because she is just straight up mysterious. Seemingly, so far, she is the most unique God Knight we've had. You know, she stands out apart from Shamrock, your Sommers, and Killinghams. She is special. And we're going to be talking all about that. So, getting right into the very first poll. Right here. Let me see. Is the positioning good? I think it is. Okay. Right here, I asked a very simple question. Gunko, does her immortality power include eternal youth? And you might be wondering, Sai, where is this even coming from? Well, this is somewhat of a talking point because we saw that her and Brook have a connection, and we know that Brook is really old. You know, he's damn near, I think, 90 years old as of this storyline. So Brook, seeing a young Gunko, it's like, okay, like Brook set sail 50-ish years ago. Gunko should be in her 60s at bare minimum. So what's up with that? Gunko, if she's 60 years old, does she look like it? In my opinion, not much so. So if she is immortal, if she has eternal youth, why her specifically? Because if you look at characters like Garling and Sommers, who are God Knights, they've been aging. Garling, you can tell he has gotten older. Sommers, you can tell he has gotten older. Gunko has relatively stayed the same. So that is why I dropped this question right here, just to see if we think she has eternal youth. 90% of people say yes, her powers include her staying young. She doesn't age anymore. 90% of people voted for that option right there, whereas 10% of people say no, she does age. She just doesn't look like it. Or this is how she looks like when she is like 60, 70, 90 years old, which I have heard people saying. People have been saying, oh, you know, this is good timeline Gunko. You know, this is Gunko with Korean skincare. Oh, underneath the bandages, she has wrinkles there. And I don't exactly agree with those opinions per se, but, you know, my good friend Par and a lot of other commenters, they have spouted that theory over and over. So I was like, okay, is this a popular theory or am I just crazy? And of course, you know, when it comes to these immortality powers, they can work in a myriad of ways. For all we know, once Imu takes away their powers, Gunko reverts to an old lady because she is really like, you know, 80, 90 years old or whatever. And also, one more thing to keep in mind, but during God Valley, she was only a devoted Blade of God. She wasn't even a God Knight yet. We saw with King Harold and Imu's interaction that when you become a God Knight, that is when you get your immortality powers, and even those immortality powers don't extend to staying young. And one more thing that does make her special, by the way, just want to throw this out there, but we saw with King Harold that he had to level up to God Knight status to actually learn about God and Imu. Gunko was actually in the flower room with Imu while she was a tier 1 servant. And at that point, we don't even know if she was a devoted Blade of God. We're just assuming that. So Gunko outright is different than your other holy knights. And not just that, but because she is so odd, and because her backstory seems tragic, a lot of people are just straight up wondering if she was adopted into the Manmayer Celestial Dragon family. There's a lot of possibilities with her, and yeah, let's just get in the comment section and see what everybody is saying. So, top comment is actually me, funny enough, and I was just giving people the explanation as to why I held this poll in the first place. I say that the main argument for people saying that she is old currently is that her, quote, appearing young current day is because she is in the good timeline and she just looks amazing despite being 50 plus years old. So Next comment says, Gunko seems to be Imu's direct servant. She's with him in the flower room, so maybe she gets extra perks. That is what I think. And, you know, if we wanted to say why Gunko specifically, we could just say that Imu has a thing for blue-haired women. I mean, he likes Vivi, he likes Lily. What is the common denominator, minus, like, the Nefertari family? It's the blue hair. Gunko has blue hair. Maybe Imu has a thing for blue-haired baddies. So, this one says, you can argue that she is built like Dr. Korea, but even she has wrinkles on her face. To be fair, she would be like 50 to 70 years old, and Korea is 140, but this sounds like a huge leap in logic when the explanation of demonic power not making you age is right there. Also, I think Dr. Korea is an exception because she's a very good doctor and likely knows how to stay young, yeah? And, you know, Dr. Korea, not only is she a good doctor, but she knows a lot about the world. She knows about the Will of D. Maybe something from the Void Century is keeping her young, which is a stretch, but, you know, Dr. Korea eventually will become relevant again. This says, Gunko has blue hair, and that ties into people like Nefertari, Lily, and Vivi. So in my opinion, Imu has a type that he likes to keep as a retainer, yeah? Yeah. I wonder how he feels about Buggy. Like, does he look at Buggy and he's like, oh man, nobody wants him to be a Yonko? But hear me out, guys. The blue hair, it's got me acting up. Maybe that's why Buggy was a warlord candidate in the first place. Yes, the notoriety, the impel down prisoners, and etc. But Imu also looked at Buggy and said, yo, blue hair? Gunko is my personal favorite newly introduced Elbaph character. She's very mysterious and has a great design. In my opinion, the Manmayer family may have some sort of special connection with Imu. Maybe they're the chosen servant family, since we have seen the Manmayer woman has blue hair just like Gunko. Oh yeah, that is true. That is very true. Maybe they were a side branch of the Nefertari family. As for Gunko herself, she is clearly an anomaly that contradicts all the information we have been given so far, so she must be one of a kind in some way. My personal theory is that she's the perfect vessel for Imu in a way, since Imu can possess her 100%, unlike Saturn, where he manifested as a black blob. Oh, you're so cooking. Yeah, no, this is true. Yeah, for Saturn, Imu simply came up as like this, you know, blackened blobby monster. But for Gunko, it was a pure takeover where Gunko got long hair, Imu's eyes came in, we didn't have the blobbiness, at least yet. So you are right. Yeah, maybe Gunko is like the Sasuke in the situation, or the Kimimaru, and how Orochimaru wanted them as vessels. Maybe that's it. Maybe this is just the perfect fit for Imu, which could say something about Imu's original form. Maybe they were a woman, maybe they had blue hair, maybe the build is the same even. There's a lot of questions coming out of this one. This says, maybe some silly meta shenanigans are happening with her fruit, where she uses her arrows to accelerate her own age backwards or something. LOL, I can't count it out for Oda. This is a really good example of how we could make this work. I like this idea a lot. It is unique. I haven't heard this before. If she was actually aging, but she's de-aging somehow, I think this is a great alternative. Shoutouts to you, Voodoo. Generally, One Piece girls don't show their age if Oda goons to them, but most of her face is covered up, so if she had any aging features, they'd be covered up mostly. Still, I'd say she has the eternal youth because she seems like a special case compared to the other Holy Knights, being Imu's personal servant and all that, yeah? You know, Oda does like good-looking female characters, so maybe that's what he's going for here. He's like, yeah, I just want to keep her hot across the board. We have seen cases where like women age drastically, like, you know, Glorios is a prime example, but then we have our Shakis who look good all throughout. Yeah, there's definitely something going on here. And as far as like the bandages covering her face, she even had that earlier on in the flashback when Rox went to the flower room. So I wonder what's going on with the lower half. Like, is there something effed up with her mouth? Is her mouth special? Maybe she is aging and, you know, we remove the bandages and it's skeletal. Imagine how cool that would be, right? We got like a human face up here, all normal, all skin, and then down below it's skeletal. And it kind of plays with the whole Brook thing, right? Where her and Brook have a connection. Maybe they connect to an even deeper level because they're similar in that way. But yeah, that is fascinating. You know, she could just be like Ulti, where Ulti always has the bottom half of her face covered up. But, I don't know. Two girls in the same series covering the lower halves of their face. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that. You know, I think it's a great design, But having two characters with the same shtick, it's like, okay, no. Oda is hiding something down there, in my opinion. I think that's my take on it. I think she's an exception, as Imu wanted her to not age and be with him due to the blue hair reminding him of Lily. So she's immortal and all bandaged up to hide the imperfections of not being Lily. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. The bottom half of your face doesn't look like the girl I gooned to. I need to change it. Hide it right now. A tragic prison that Soul King will free her from. I think aging stops on their actual death, and they don't age because of immortality, and they just get to live, yeah? And this goes on to the big theory that if Imu withdraws their powers, withdraws the mark, Gunko will just die in the spot, kind of like Saturn. We don't know if Saturn died because Imu has a kill switch, or if Saturn died because they took away their powers, and Saturn just aged like rapidly all the way up to like 200, 300, 400, however old they are. So yeah, that is very interesting. Last one, have we actually seen her Abyss mark? Since she seems to be Imu's personal aide, it wouldn't surprise me if she has the same level mark of the Elders. We haven't seen any God Knight marks, to be fair, right? We've only seen Heralds. You could argue we've seen Sommers, but it's like a whole sleeve, and we've seen what the God Knight one looks like, so it's not exactly that. So that's a tough one. As far as having the same mark as the Elders, I don't think so. Because at God Valley, she was introduced as God's steel and God's devoted blade. And if she had the same markings as the Elders, she'd be God Knight plus. So I don't think that's the case, personally. But you could say that she has, like, the tier 1 mark, tier 2 mark. But Imu did give her those powers, though. So yeah, it could be like a mixture of ideas right there. So now, on to the second poll, because this is where it gets pretty interesting. But what will happen to Gunko in Elbaph? I put 4 options up here. Of course, other is an option as well. 1, will the Straw Hats liberate her or free her from Imu? Because we've seen that, when she saw Brook, her memory started rushing back and she kind of took control away from her God Eye persona. And it seems like she was rushing over to Brook to, reconcile or talk to him. And then Imu took over. And with that being the case, we kind of know where this is going, right? If there's a character who is in trouble, the Straw Hats more than likely will assist them and free them. So liberation, I think, is a pretty cool option. The second one is that Imu simply brings her home safely. Like, Imu just dominates here, and then he Abyss marks her out of Elbaph. Which, key distinction here. In this poll, we do have the caveat that we're only talking about in Elbaph, not Final War, not Marijra, not out in the open seas or Laugh Tale. No. Here in Elbaph, in the next 30, 40 chapters, what will happen to her? So keep that in mind. Next up, the third option is that Gunko will simply die, which goes back to what we talked about earlier, where Imu withdraws their powers, or maybe we just beat Gunko and we don't know how to stop, the Imu possession, and then she just fades away into oblivion. This looks like it's a pretty popular pick. Look at this. What is going to the percentages right here? But 53% of people believe that Gunko will be freed by the end of Elbaph, which is a large margin. That's a majority right there. 18% believe that Imu will succeed and bring her back. Whether this is while Imu is still possessing and controlling Gunko, or whether it's through Gunko's own volition, or, maybe Sommers and killing him, like punch her and then knock her unconscious and bring her back. This is what this option entails, and 18% of people voted for this right here, which I do think is pretty interesting. Because this would mean that we'd have to fight her later on, or free her later on. And I don't mind that. We've seen before, like, during arcs like Water 7, right? Nico Robin, she seems bad, she betrayed us, and then we learned that, oh no, she's being possessed and we need to save her. Boom, Enies Lobby. Gunko could be a reason why we go to the Holy Land. Is it the strongest reason? No. But if Brook looked at Luffy and said, hey, Luffy-san, please, I know Gunko, she's not like this, she's being controlled, can we save my dear friend? You know damn well Luffy's gonna say yes, let's go. Luffy would drop everything for his Nakama. So if Brook genuinely asks Luffy, hey, please can we save her? No doubt Luffy will say yes. You guys have read the series, I read the series, that's just how Luffy is. So I think this could be set up for the next arc even. Next up, as far as Gunko dying, we talked about how this would happen, whether we know how to stop the possession, whether we, sever the connection, then Imu just pulls the lifespan out of her. Maybe she rapidly ages and just disintegrates. There's a lot of ways where Gunko can just straight up perish. And it's tough because, it goes back to the meme. Not a lot of One Piece characters die. A lot of them do in flashbacks, but present day, we don't get deaths that often. But when we do, they're impactful. Will Gunko be that death in Elbaph? I wouldn't mind it. I look at this as character development for Brook. Like, imagine he sees Gunko gives him the backstory, tells him what happened, and then boom, Gunko dies. That also would send Brook into a fit of rage, and then maybe the Straw Hats connected with her in like that short period of time, and then yes, they want revenge on Imu. This could be another leading factor into the final war, but we will see. Especially with how Egghead ended off, it's like, dang, dude, I think everybody from Egghead survived, right? Like, the Vegapunks died, and then they got brought back. Stella died. He's getting brought back. Kuma died, but he's being brought back. Maybe this will be the time when Oda rips off the Band-Aid and says, okay, we had a lot of fake-out deaths. Let's just kill Gunko for the story. I wouldn't hate it. I do like when series get brutal, so Gunko dying, not bad, but I'm a gooner. I like her design. I hope she doesn't die. Hey, for my sake, Oda, please don't kill her. The most tragic one for me, the hardest death, and I just passed it in the anime again, Monet. Dude, Monet dying is a loss to humanity. I remember, I was a long time ago, I was not crying, but I was heartbroken. I said, no way. Surely she's still alive. One Piece, please don't kill her. And then, you really think about it. It's like, okay, Caesar stabbed the heart. Punk Hazard exploded. I think that area exploded because, Law wanted to destroy SAD. So yeah, Monet did not survive that. No way we can two-piece her out of it. And that's a little bit unfortunate. So now, last option, of course, is always going to be Other if I can put it in there. And I do like this option a lot because it leaves room for people to give ideas that I haven't thought of. And I'm not perfect. That's why I hold these polls, because I have my own opinions on things. And it's like, okay, let's see what other people have to say about it, right? So for me, I am going with the liberation route. I'm with the majority in this one. And I think it's just because that is the theme of One Piece right now. It's freeing people from oppression. It's helping people. And even in this image alone, it's Brook doing the Nika dance. He does this during Fishman Island. And it's like, man, Brook has a tie with Gunko. Brook is a musician who can possibly, rival the Drums of Liberation or back it up. I think this is setting Brook up to musically liberate her. I think that's one really good route. We could go down the music road where Brook plays something and then Gunko's like, whoa, I'm not possessed anymore. I think that is fair. And we saw that music is one of the main connections she has with Brook. I mean, hell, when she was eating food here in Elbaph, she was listening to Brook's music, his soul music. So it's like, yeah, like that could be the key right there. And then, couple Brook's music with the Drums of Liberation, that could do the trick. And that might even stop Domi Reversi for all we know. Another route we could do is simply just Luffy's flames. Maybe it's like the flames of liberation. Luffy takes out a part of his hair, throws it at Gunko, and she gets set ablaze, and boom, she's saved. Or maybe we go the Roxy Zebek route, where we simply like beat her down and then she's liberated, which is super silly. I hope that's not the case. I don't know. I'm fine with beating somebody down to save them being the answer for the first few characters, but when you really think about it, right? If beating them down is the way to save them, then we have a lot of beating to do. And I don't think logistically that's possible. Look at all the giants that have turned. Yes, the Shrouds can do it, but that's a lot of work. There's got to be some third option out there where we can liberate her in a more timely fashion. So yeah, I do lean towards this right here. And I'm not on the Gunko for Nakama route per se, but I would just like to see her drop info on the Holy Land to the Straw Hats. Like maybe we save her, and then she's like, hey guys, this is how the God Knights actually function. This is what Imu can do. These are his powers, blah, 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 blah. I think there's a lot we could actually get out of her. And that could also propel us to the final war. Like, maybe she tells us that Imu is working on a world-destroying device or has Uranus, and then Luffy's like, hey, we should stop that because I won't be able to eat meat tomorrow if Imu destroys everything. That'd be cool. And of course, just the whole Brook storyline too. I do want Brook to get something here, you know. We came into this arc expecting Usopp lore, Usopp flashbacks, etc., etc., but Brook has taken over, and I'm happy for him. You know, Brook for me has always been a middling Straw Hat. I never hated him. I never loved him. He was just kind of there. So giving Brook more agency, I think is great. I love it. I love it. And, you know, one way to keep her alive, despite Imu taking away her powers, could be that she is just aging, right? She ages up. But because she's not like 100 plus, she's still fine. I don't know if you guys watch Fairy Tail, but it could be like Old Tierre, where Old Tierre is young, but after we beat her and after she, like, you know, does her magical spell, she ages up to like an 80-year-old grandma. Maybe Gunko's the same way, and that's how she survives. She ages up without Imu's powers, and boom, she's just an old lady. She can't join the crew. She can't fight anymore. She just hangs back. So I've seen a lot of people debating this, and I think we'll see it in the comment section as well. But people are saying we shouldn't redeem Gunko, or this doesn't redeem Gunko at all. She's not a good person. And I think that's a tough one, because we don't know if she's been controlled her entire life, if she was brainwashed, or, you know, if every time she tries to do something to oppose Imu, she gets taken over. I think there's a lot of nuances there. It depends how Oda explains it. But for me, I'm a Gooner at heart. She looks cute. Excuse it. You know, she gets the Psy pass. She is redeemed, boys. Oh, man. So, getting into the comment section, this says Gunko is getting the Saturn treatment. Yeah. Gunko being sapped of life. That'll be tragic, brother. I think we'll make it even better is if we get faked out. Like, maybe Gunko comes back fully for a little bit. She drops the lore. She drops the thank yous. You know, Luffy likes her, blah, blah, blah. And then Imu kills her. That'd be nuts. That would be nuts. This says, we found out Gunko is just another one of Kanjuro's paintings. How did you even come up with this? We haven't seen Kanjuro for damn near 3 years, and you whipped out his name? This is a crazy pull. That's like somebody saying, you know, if Virgo's gonna come back, he never died. It's like, whoa, wait, Virgo in 2025, 2026? All right. It says, I can see Gunko being the reason for the Straw Hat. Oh, look at that. Mind rope. Yep. Gunko could be the reason why we go to Marie Joie. Yeah, very much so. I mean, if Luffy likes her, if Brook likes her, if she just has one connection, we're going, brother. We are. We're not going to let those cries go on deaf ears. I think she'll get back to Marie Joie, but I can imagine her having doubts after seeing Nika. That'd be interesting. You know, the whole thing about how she fears Nika, I wonder where that stems from. Is that a fear that Imu put into her? Is that just a thing all the God Knights are afraid of? We don't really know too much yet. But yeah, it goes back to seeing like what her real personality is. How many personalities does she have? She's kind of like Blackbeard in that way, right? Remember when the Blackbeard theories were going crazy? Like, oh my God, he has multiple personalities. It's Rocks, it's Davy Jones, it's Blackbeard. Who is it? Maybe that's Gunko. She has her God Knight personality. Then she has the Brook personality, and then she has like the Imu personality. I'm just looking for a third. It could be like that. It could be like Split, right? If you guys have ever watched that movie. This says, this is going to be unpopular, but in my opinion, Gunko shouldn't be redeemed. Here we go. Or at least it shouldn't be as easy for her just remembering something then deciding to be nice. Memories, be damned. She's been enslaving, murking, carrying out Imu's will, and treating the masses like worthless trash for, I don't know, how long? Just like the rest of the God Knights. It'd be a bit too easy if she suddenly is forgiven just because she has a few memories of being a good person with Brook 6 to 7 decades ago. Yeah, see, this is the tough one, right? Like, if we know that she's actually always been good, but whenever she tries to be, she's like taken over, or, you know, she's been brainwashed, or like she has a different personality, that's what throws this all into a tizzy. As far as this goes, these are all opinions. Like, if you don't believe that Gunko should be redeemed, that's fine. I think there's nothing wrong with that. It makes sense. Like you said, she has been enslaving, killing, and carrying out Imu's orders. I get it. But with the route Oda's going, I think some Celestial Dragons by the end of the story will get some sort of redemption. I mean, hell, look at Shariel, right? when Vegapunk was doing the broadcast, we had like this panel and this scene in the anime where Sharia's like, wait, Void Century? What's going on? And even the whole thing with the sinking world, it doesn't seem like the Celestial Dragons know too much about that even. So we could get to the end of the story, and the Celestial Dragons are just idiots. Like, they don't really know, and maybe they feel bad after a while, which I'm not saying they should just be like let into society and be okay and, slapped on the wrist, but maybe we try to re-educate them. It's never too late. And I guess a great example would be like Miosgard, how he came down to Fishman Island, super racist, wanting to get slaves back, shooting everybody. And then we see him nowadays and he's defending Shirahoshi and he gets executed. Maybe we get more Celestial Dragons going down that route. I don't know if that'd be super popular. I don't know if people would exactly like that. But I think at least a handful of Celestials will go down that route though. I doubt it's 100%, but I also doubt it's 0. This says, Brody, unless we find out she's been fighting oh, here we go. Yeah, I should have just read this part, by the way. My bad, brother. My bad. Unless we find out she's been fighting Imu's will the entire time, she's been part of the WG, and she's just been abstaining from killing and enslaving, I'm not going to find her redemption very satisfying. Yeah, like for me, I give her the hottie tax. Hey, maybe I just turn a blind eye to some of this, man. Maybe. Gunko is definitely the most unique God Knight. I feel like she might be Imu's vessel that they've been preparing for years, and for some reason is only now able to use her as such. Hence, why they haven't tried to take over Elbaph prior to the current events, because as we saw in the flashback, Imu needs to be physically present to reverse somebody. Not exactly true. Granted, I'm not too sure where you're going with this, but at God Valley, before Imu showed up in Saint Saturn's body, Garling and the not the black-haired Holy Knight, the blonde-haired Holy Knight. I always get that mixed up now. But we saw that they Domi Reversi'd Rox's family, and like I said, Imu wasn't there yet. So I think Domi Reversi is an ability that all the God Knights can do, or maybe just a select few like Garling, for example. But yeah. I do think there is a lot that Oda still needs to explain in regards to the God Knights. So that's why I kind of like the idea of freeing her for a little bit, because she would be an amazing person to get lore from. I feel like I'm a lot more animated, like walking like this. I'm kind of out of breath. Do you hear that? I'm not out of shape, I promise. It's just like, I'm kind of bouncing, dude. I don't know. It's weird. And plus, it's kind of hot in my room because I just got my PC running. It's a small room in general. I got like a heat lamp right here just staring down at me. But yeah. A plot point related to the endgame being introduced and resolved in the same arc, ? Oda would never. She's 100% going to be brought home safely by Imu to be reintroduced later and probably rushed and wasted. No, not rushed and wasted. As far as being brought back home, I do like this a little bit. Because maybe we get some Gunko back here, and we go to the Holy Land to retrieve her, and then she's even more far gone. Like, imagine Imu's like, okay, I don't want to lose control of Gunko anymore. I'm going to take her other eye out. Or, ooh, I'm just going to, like, break her legs. Something stupid. Like, oh, here's more magical bindings, so the real Gunko can never come out again. I think that'd be tragic, and I wouldn't mind it. I'm here for the story, brother. I'm here for tragedy. I'm here for character development. Give me all of it. This says liberated by Brook and then dies. Oh, tough. I would say she'd be liberated if it wasn't for the fact that she killed slaves on screen. The worst a character that was redeemed did before was beat people up that we liked. Never further than that. She's probably going to die as her redemption. I mean, being liberated doesn't mean she's going to be redeemed, per se. Being liberated simply means that you're freed from Imu's control. It doesn't mean that, everybody has to forgive you and, we pat you on the back and you're like the next Nakama. No. Like, these are two very different plot points. But as far as this goes, like, the worst character that was redeemed, I'd say would have to be Miosgard. And, obviously we didn't see what he really did on screen, but we know that he had slaves. He went down to Fishman Island to get back his property. So I'd say he was the worst. And that goes beyond beating up people that we like. She will be freed, but will age into a 70-year-old woman. Yeah, that's scary, man. That is so scary. Hey, no offense to the old ladies out there. Everybody ages, it's natural, but damn, the beauty that is Gunko, man. I don't want to lose it. We're getting Brook and Gunko's backstories. Let's go. I'm locking in on that one. Huh. Brook and Gunko. We can't really ship it, can we? Because Brook knew Gunko when she was like a little girl. I was gonna say, like, if she was just constantly immortal, maybe she would be Brook's perfect partner. Because I'm sure you guys have seen the meme where after One Piece is over, you know, well past the story, all the Straw Hats are dead, and Brook is there by himself. Like, he literally cannot have a friend that will not die one day. I think it'd be awesome if he got, like, an immortal buddy. And maybe Gunko could be that person, but I do think her immortality stems from Emu, so I think she's cooked. I think she's so cooked. Even if she's brought back to Maurice Raw, I guarantee the Straw Hats, or at least Brook, will affect her in a way that she's changed from when we first met her. Ooh, she could be a double agent. Imagine that. We free her, and then she goes back home, and she's like, hey, guys, I'm going to tell you what Emu's doing. Just wait for a message. And then that might culminate in her either getting killed or even joining the Straw Hats. I personally don't see more people joining the crew just because it's so big. But my brother thinks she might have a chance of joining, and I can see it. I definitely think it's a bigger possibility than Loki. When it comes to the next Nakama, if you watch my videos, you know exactly where I'm going. But I do want another female character on the crew. I know. Why is it female? It's a sausage fest, man. We got so many guys here. We just have Nami and Robin on the gal side. That is why I wanted Yamato to join. Strong, female, great. You know, she would be up there with like your Jinbei, Zoro, Sanjis. I was like, oh, that's a perfect candidate. But we didn't get Yamato, or at least not yet. And then people are bringing up Vivi. I'm like, okay, Vivi's not bad, but I mean, she's just like Nami. She doesn't bring anything unique to the table. Gunko would. You know, Gunko being a straight fighter, I think is amazing. Again, that's why I wanted Yamato. I think we do need a straight up female fighter. Yes, Nami and Robin can fight, but that's not their specialty. Robin is all about the archaeology. Nami's the navigator. She's all about weather. I think we need a straight brawler, brother. So we'll read two more and we'll get out of here. Breath. Give me a second. I don't know why. And the problem is, too, I just got back from, like, the gym, so it's like I'm even more tired than usual. This says, Emu would be really mad if anything happened to his prized possession, maybe even unhinged. Like he'd sink some islands. Oh, that would be crazy. Maybe, you know, going back to the whole Gunko being adopted route, imagine the reason why she was adopted is because she was a tribute to the world government. And Gunko, if she were to leave the God Knights, Emu would destroy their island. So Gunko does get freed, but then Emu destroys her hometown, or Brook's hometown, because we know that Brook was there, right? That'd be really interesting. Yeah. And then, of course, you know, that would further the rising waters, which would send the whole world of One Piece into turmoil. That would be amazing. Great idea, slam Jesus. Now, last one. I have a feeling she's going back to Emu's land, but she's going to see Nika, isn't to be feared, but loved when Luffy shows up. I like that. Yeah. She sees Nika and she's like, man, you know, Nika's kind of a cool guy. And then she starts looking more into Nika and why she originally feared him. And maybe this is where we learn about how the celestial dragons are brought up. You know, we learn about what they learn in school. You know, like, oh, celestial dragons are number one. Nika is evil. You know, David Clan is bad. Maybe in this way, we end up learning about the celestial dragon propaganda. But yep, that is it for today, guys. We'll be back soon with another One Piece video. I've been knocking these polls out, brother. I think it's really cool just doing like 1 or 2 polls per video, you know, a more cohesive focus. Because I think beforehand, I like jumped around from topic to topic, but here we go. You know, it's pretty easy like this. But yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. Peace out and stay safe, brothers.